Okay, guys, so let's get started without any further ado. In today's class, we're going to continue from where we left off in the last session. We were discussing about the different categories of IPs. Today, we're going to discuss about the classes as well. What is class A? What is class B? What is class C, D, and E? So if I move a bit forward in the presentation slides, we've covered all this in the earlier sessions. Today, let's talk about the classes. Okay. So each of this IP address, so the entire IP address range here, and any IP belonging in the specific range, each of these IPs is going to fall under one of these categories, guys. So from class A to class E, you'll have all the IPs from 0000 to 255, 255, 255, 255, all divided in these 5 classes. Okay. And again, in each of these classes, there's a certain set of public IPs and a certain set of private IPs. In the last class, we have learned what public and private IPs are. Okay. Today, we'll discuss about the relevance of these classes as well. Okay. So first, when we talk about the range, class A starts at the first IP 0, 0, 0, 0. And then class E starts or ends at the last IP 255, 255, 255, 255. So the entire range of IP addresses, the entire IPv4 range from the first IP till the last IP is divided in these 5 classes. Okay. Now, when you talk about class A, it starts at the first IP 0000 and it goes all the way up to the IP 127, 255, 255, 255. Okay. Now, if this is ending at 127, 255, 255, 255, class B obviously starts at 128, 000. All the 255s cycle back to zeros and the leftmost octet increments by 1. So all the 255s here have changed to zeros, and this 127 increments by 1 and becomes 128. That is where class B starts. So class B first IP is 128,000. From 128,000, it goes all the way up to 191, 255, 255, 255. And since it's ending at 191, class C starts at 192. From 192,000, it goes all the way up to 223, 255, 255, 255. Since it's ending at 223, class D starts at 224. From 224,000, it goes all the way up to 239, 255, 255, 255. Since it's ending at 239, class E starts at 240. And from 240, it goes all the way up to 255, 255, 255, 255. So the only 4 numbers that you have to remember here are these odd ending ranges. So these odd numbers, which are the ending range. So the 4 numbers that we have to remember are these ones: 127, 191, 223, and 239. Because from those 4 numbers, you automatically get the next starting range. So class A 0 to 127, class B 128 to 191, class C 192 to 223, class D 224 to 239, and class E 240 to 255. On the left side, you have all even numbers. On the right side, you have all odd numbers. Okay. So the only 4 numbers you have to remember are these 4 numbers from which you can get the entire range. Now, in that entire range, some IPs are public IPs and some IPs are private IPs. So between 0 and 127, there's a small private IP range from 10,000 to 10,255, 255, 255. Any IP within this range is a private IP. And any IP outside that range will be by default a public IP. So if you take the elaborative example, so if you talk about class A, it starts at the first IP 0000. And from the first IP 0000, it goes all the way up to 127, 255, 255, 255. Okay. Now in this entire range, there's a small private IP range from 10,000 to 10,255, 255, 255. Any IP within this range is a private IP, and any IP outside that range is a public IP. So from 0 up to 10, which is 9,255, 255, 255, and after 10, from 11,000 up to 127, those are the 2 sets of public IPs. So in each class, you have a similar set, 1 small set of private IPs and 2 sets of public IPs on each side. Okay. So similarly in class B also, again, when you talk about class B here, It starts at the first IP 128.0.0.0 and goes up to 191.255.255.255. That's the entire range of class B. Any IP between that range, okay, will have two sets, public and private. So the private IP range starts from 172.16.0.0 and goes up to 172.31.255.255. Any IP within this range is a private IP, and any IP outside that range will be a public IP. So from 128 to 172, 15 to 55, and after that from 172.32.00 to 172, 191.255.255, that's the public IP range. Okay. So in every similar class, you'll have one small private IP set and two sets of public IPs. Okay. Similarly, in class C, also between 192 and 223, there's a small private IP set from 192.168.00 to 192.168.255.255. Any IP within this range is a private IP, and any IP outside that range will be a public IP. Class D and Class E are exceptions. There are no private, private IPs in them. All of them are public IPs itself. Okay. To explain this in a much better way, or to understand in a much deeper way, let's try to perform this with some examples. I'll write down some random IPs and I'll try to show you how do you categorize each IP, which class it belongs to, and whether it's a public IP or a private IP. Okay. So if I just write down some IPs in a notepad file here, just a second. Right. So let's say we write this IP here, 192.168.0.10, then 172, and 35, 45, 55. Then let's say 11.12.13.14, 192.150.10.25 or 20, 172.20.30.40. Yeah, that's a 200.100.191.120, and then 250.1.2.3. Okay, so let's have written down some random IPs here. Now looking at these IPs here, if I have to figure out which IP belongs to which class and whether they are public or private IPs, it's a very simple procedure. All I have to do is check first which octet they belong to. Okay, just a second. Right. Okay. So now if you take the first IP here, which is 192.168.0.10. Okay. Now, when you look at the first octet there, it is 192. Where is 192 falling under? It is class C. So this is class C. Okay. Now, once you know that this is class C, you would look at this range. For an IP to be a private IP in class C, first octet should be 192. Second octet should be 168. The remaining two octets can be anything from 0 to 255. Okay. For class A, first octet should be 10. The remaining three octets can be anything from 0 to 255. For class B, first octet should be 172. Second octet should be between 16 and 31. And the remaining two octets can be anything from 0 to 255. Okay. So when you look at the class C IP here, 192.168.0.10, first octet is 192. Second octet is 168. The remaining two are anything from 0 to 255. So therefore, this is class C and a private IP. Okay. Looking at the next one now. The next IP that we have here is 172, 35, 45, 55. Okay. Looking at the first octet 172, we know that this belongs to, 172 is class B. Okay, so I can type class B here. Correct. So this is class B. And since the first octet is 172, that seems to match here. But the second octet is 35. 35 is beyond 16 and 31. So therefore, this is a public IP instead. If it were between 16 and 31, it would have been a private IP. But since it shows 35 there, it's a public IP. Next IP, 11.12.30.14. 11 is in class A, between 0 and 127. And for it to be a private IP, first octet should be 10. But what we have here is 11. So therefore, this is also a public IP. Okay. Next IP, 192.150.10.20. Now, according to 192, we know that this belongs to class C. Right? And first octet seems to match for a private IP, but the second octet is 160, which means it is not the value 168. So therefore, this is a public IP as well. Okay. Next IP, 172.20.3.40. So this is class B and private. Okay. First octet is 172, second octet is between 16 and 31. So therefore, it's a private IP. Next, 200.100.191.120 or something. Okay. So this here, 200 is definitely class C again. And since it's not 192, 168, this is a public IP as well. Next, 250.1.2.3. 250 is class E. Okay. And since in class E you don't have any private IPs at all of these are public IPs itself. Okay. So this is how you verify whether an IP is a public IP or a private IP and which class it belongs to. Okay. So for that, you need to remember this entire range, guys. Now, this is important from cybersecurity perspective because from the IP address, you can actually try to figure out where the attack is coming from. If it is a public IP, it means the attack is coming from the internet. The attacker is not in the same network as yours. If it is a private IP, it means the attacker is in the same local network as yours. Okay. So you can find out the source of the attack, whether the data is incoming or whether the data is outgoing, okay, ingress or egress. Okay. So again, if the attack is coming in or threat is going out, all that can be determined whether it's a public or a private IP and which class it belongs to. Okay. But now let's talk about the relevance of classes. Why do we have 5 separate classes? Why not just one single class with some public and private IPs in it? Why do we have 5 separate classes for this? Okay, so let's talk about the relevance of classes now. Okay, each class has a unique number of network and host portions, guys. Class A has 1 network portion and 3 host portions. Class B has 2 network portions and 2 host portions. Class C has 3 network portions and 1 host portion. Class D and Class E have all network portions itself. There are no host portions in them. But what do these network and host portions signify? What is their relevance? So to understand this, let's take the example of Class C first, which has 3 network portions and 1 host portion. Just a second. Okay. DURGASOFT has just dropped a message in the chat to make any contact regarding the fees or to make any payments or to get the access of the earlier recordings. They've mentioned the links for that as well. Okay. You can check that out in the chat box, guys. So let's talk about Class C. Now in Class C, the first private IP starts at 192.168.0.0. Now in that entire IP address, the first 3 octets here are the network portions. And the last 3 octets here are the host portions. Okay. Now what I mean by network and host is basically whenever there's the network portion, that gives the identity for the entire network. So all these IPs belong to the 192.168.0. network. Okay. And the host portion, on the other hand, gives you the identity for the host. Okay, so this is the first host, the second host, the third host, the fourth host. As such, you can connect a maximum of 255 hosts. Hosts are nothing but devices. So 0.1 could be my router, 0.2 could be my smartphone, 0.3 could be my laptop, 0.4 could be my smartwatch. So each of these change in the host portions basically indicates a change in the host. Okay. Each of these IPs can be assigned to an individual host. Okay. But whenever there's a change in the network, that changes the entire network itself. Okay. Which means now, after 192.168.0.255, the next IP that you have is 192.168.1.0. And that would belong to a different network. And these two networks can't communicate with each other. Hosts belonging to the same network can only communicate with other hosts in the same network. Okay. They cannot communicate with hosts from other networks. Okay. So no matter what network you take in Class C, in every network, you can only connect a maximum of 255 devices, not more than that. So from the first IP, 192.168.0.0 to 192.168.255.255, the first 3 portions are the network portions, which give you identity for the entire network. And the last portion is the host portion, which gives identity for the host. Okay. So from that, you can determine how many hosts you can connect in each network. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can connect a maximum of 255 hosts. I'm ignoring the zeroth IP. Okay. You don't assign the zeroth IP to any device. Similarly, you don't assign the 255th IP as well. But just to make it a round figure, we can assume in class C network, in each network, we can connect a maximum of 255 devices. Okay. When we talk about class B now, which has two network portions and two host portions, just a second, let me erase the drawings. Yeah. So when you talk about class B now, which has two network portions and two host portions here, the first IP in class B starts at 172.16.0.0. Next IP 16.0.1. Next IP 16.0.2. Next IP 16.0.3. This goes all the way up to 0.255. After 0.255, you have 10. Now, please note the network does not divide over here after 0.255. Okay, because network portions are only the first and the second portions. So the 0.255 can now freely communicate with 10 also, because the next octet is also the host portion itself. Okay, so from 10 all the way up to 1255, then 20 to 2255, 30 to 3255, 40 to 4255. This goes on and on and on. And somewhere down the line, you would have 2550 to 255, 255. Once both those octets are full, then the 16 changes to 17. Same logic. As long as the host portions are changing, it just indicates a change in the host. It's a different device. But all of them still belong to the same network, the 172.16 dot network. So from 16.0.0 all the way up to 16.255, 255, all of them belong to one single network. But when 16 changes to 17, the network divides over there. Okay, so from here, it's a completely different network. Okay, and these two networks can't communicate with each other. Okay, similarly, after 17.0.0 to 17.255, 255, then you have the next network, 18.0.0. Okay, and from 18.0.0 to 18.255, 255, that's all one singular network. Okay, and then 19.0.0 to 19.255, 255, that's the next network. 20.0.0 to 20.255, 255, next network. Like that, it goes on to the last network, which is 172.31.0.0 to 31.255, 255. That's the last private IP in class B. And in each network here, you can connect a maximum of 255 into 255 devices. Since every fourth octet is repeating 255 times for the third octet. So, and every third octet again repeats 255 times. So the maximum number of devices we can connect in each class B network is 255 into 255. Okay. And finally, when you come to class A, let me erase all these drawings here. So class A private IP range is from 10.0.0.0 all the way up to 10.255, 255, 255. Okay. So from 10.0.0.0 all the way up to 10.255, 255, 255, you have just one single network. And in this one single network, you can connect a maximum of 255 into 255 into 255 devices. That's the entire class A network. Okay. So again, each difference in class here is depending on the network size. Class C can be used for small networks. Okay, so home size networks, small organization networks, we go for class C. For larger networks, like of organization networks or again MNC networks, we go for class B or class A. So that's the relevance of each class in the entire IPv4 address. Class D and Class C public IPs are special public IPs. They're not assigned to any other system or to the public, again, general public. They're used by special organizations, research and development organizations, weather forecasting services, military organizations, police organizations. All of those go for Class D and Class E. Okay, so that's the relevance of each class in the entire IPv4 range. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Nothing further. I think this is a brief introduction on what classes are and what are public and private IPs, guys. There's a few more important concepts to cover. Some important protocols like DHCP and DNS. We'll be covering that in the registered classes. Those are much more, again, important topics from the networking fundamentals. Okay, we'll be covering that in the next session from Monday onwards, guys. Okay. Any questions or doubts, Renika, up to this point? So I think this is the last demo, guys. There's no more demos from here after. And only for the registered students, the link will be assigned from Monday's session. Renuka, any questions? Hello. Yeah, assuming there's no questions, we can exit the session here. We'll connect back on Monday again. Have a good day. Thanks for joining the sessions. And if there's any further queries, please contact the institute. Again, regarding the fees also, as mentioned, it's 10,000 rupees in Indian currency. And there's classes from Monday to Friday, every day for 1 hour each. Since these were demos, we had slightly shorter sessions. But once we have the registered classes, it's going to be much longer duration. Okay. So that's it. Nothing further. We can exit the session, guys. Have a good day. Thanks for joining the demos. We can exit the session here.